Are the Miami Dolphins about to make the most expensive mistake in franchise history? Or is their hesitation to trade Tyreek Hill actually the smartest chess move they've made in years? This $15 million question isn't just about money. It's about the very soul of this franchise and whether they have the courage to make the hard decisions that separate championship organizations from perpetual disappointments. And right now, with every day that passes, the Dolphins are essentially gambling with house money that might not be there much longer. Let's cut through all the diplomatic language and get to the brutal truth. Miami is staring down the barrel of a decision that could define the next half-decade of their existence. They have a 31-year-old receiver who's already shown signs of decline, expressed public dissatisfaction with the organization, and whose best days are almost certainly behind him. Yet they're clinging to him like he's still the game-breaking force they traded for years ago. The financial implications alone should keep Stephen Ross awake at night. That $15 million in cap savings isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's the difference between building a complete championship roster and being handcuffed by an aging star who may not even want to be there. In today's NFL, where every dollar matters and salary cap management often determines success, Miami is essentially choosing to pay premium prices for diminishing returns. But here's where the analysis gets really uncomfortable for Dolphins fans who still believe in the Hill magic. The warning signs aren't subtle. They're screaming at the organization like a fire alarm in the middle of the night. Hill's struggles when Tua Tagovailoa was injured last season weren't just statistical blips. They were a window into what this offense looks like when the timing and chemistry aren't perfect. Think about what that means for a moment. A truly elite receiver finds ways to make plays regardless of who's throwing him the ball. Jerry Rice did it. Larry Fitzgerald did it. Calvin Johnson did it. But Hill? He completely disappeared when his preferred quarterback wasn't available, exposing a fundamental dependency that should terrify anyone responsible for long-term roster construction. The age factor cannot and should not be ignored either. At 31, Hill is entering that dangerous territory where speed, his greatest and arguably only elite asset, can evaporate overnight. We've seen it happen to countless receivers who built their careers on pure velocity. One pulled hamstring, one minor ankle injury, or just the natural effects of father time, and suddenly that game-breaking speed becomes merely above-average quickness. What makes this situation even more frustrating is that Hill still has legitimate trade value right now. Other teams see the name recognition, remember the highlight reels, and would be willing to give up significant assets for the chance to add him to their roster. But that value is absolutely going to diminish if he has another inconsistent season. And based on everything we saw last year, that's not just possible, it's probable. The analysts' point about good but not great seasons is particularly damning because it highlights the narrow window Miami is working with. Hill doesn't have to be terrible for his trade value to plummet. He just has to be human. And at 31, with his skill set, being merely good instead of spectacular is the beginning of the end. There's also the locker room dynamic that nobody wants to talk about. Hill's end-of-season comments didn't happen in a vacuum. They were the culmination of frustrations that have been building throughout a disappointing campaign. When your highest-paid skill position player is publicly expressing dissatisfaction, it creates ripple effects throughout the organization that go far beyond individual performance. Younger players start questioning their own situations. Team chemistry can suffer. And most importantly, it sends a message that individual concerns take precedence over team success. Is that really the culture Miami wants to build as they try to construct a championship-caliber roster? The Tua dependency issue adds another layer of concern that should have the Dolphins' medical staff working overtime. Tagovailoa's injury history is well documented, and there's absolutely no guarantee he stays healthy for an entire season. Every time he goes down, he'll become significantly less effective, which means Miami is essentially paying superstar money for a player whose production is entirely dependent on the health of another player with concerning injury track record. From a pure asset management perspective, the Dolphins are playing with fire. They have a depreciating asset that still has significant market value, but they're choosing to hold on to it in hopes that somehow, magically, everything will work out perfectly. That's not strategic planning. That's wishful thinking disguised as loyalty. The $15 million in cap savings could be redirected toward building a more balanced, sustainable roster. That money could strengthen the offensive line, add depth at linebacker, invest in young talent that fits the team's long-term vision, or simply provide flexibility for mid-season moves. Instead, Miami is essentially paying premium prices for a player who may not even want to be there, and whose best days are almost certainly behind him. The most damning aspect of this entire situation is the opportunity cost. Every day the Dolphins wait to make a move is a day they're potentially losing value. Trade markets in the NFL are fluid, and teams that need receiver help won't wait forever to explore other options. If Miami waits too long, they might find themselves in a position where they're desperate to move Hill but have no willing trade partners. What's particularly frustrating is that this decision should be relatively straightforward. Hill has made it clear he's not entirely happy in Miami. His production declined noticeably last season. He's 31 years old and entering the declining phase of his career. His trade value is still relatively high, and the team could use that $15 million in cap space to address multiple roster needs. Yet somehow, the Dolphins seem paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision. But here's the reality. Keeping Hill is just as much a decision as trading him, and it might be the riskier of the two options. The analyst's observation that Hill probably doesn't have a future in Miami after his contract expires in 2026 should be the final nail in the coffin of any argument for keeping him. If that's the case, and all evidence suggests it is, then why are the Dolphins wasting valuable time and resources on a player who's essentially a short-term rental at this point? The smart move, the business-savvy move, the championship-oriented move is to trade Hill now while they can still maximize their return. Use that $15 million in cap space to build a more complete roster. Invest in players who want to be in Miami and whose best days are ahead of them, not behind them. The Dolphins have reached their crossroads, and the path they choose will determine whether they're remembered as an organization that made the tough decisions necessary for long-term success, or one that clung to past glory while their championship window slammed shut. What's your take on this situation? Should Miami pull the trigger on a Hill trade now while they can still get maximum value? Or are they right to hold on to a proven playmaker for one more season? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button if you think the Dolphins need to make some hard choices before it's too late.